It's time to stop using the term imposter syndrome to describe ourselves and others, particularly as women in STEMs. We are not frauds. We have earned the right to be where we are. So let's stop using that term. Hi, I'm Carol Doherty, and today on Survival Strategies for Women in STEM, I want to talk about why the term imposter syndrome is so harmful and why it needs to get removed from our vocabulary. First, this is a term that was created in the 70s to describe the anxiousness and discomfort in the workplace that was experienced particularly by women. This is a made-up term. And yeah, there are doubts, and we can be nervous and unsure when we're joining a new team or when we're taking on a new role. We're moving to a new company. Sure, we get nervous. We get anxious. Maybe we have some self-doubts about, well, how's this going to go? That's all healthy and normal stuff. When it got labeled as imposter syndrome, we did women a huge disservice because it makes you feel like you're a fraud. And the term itself just reinforces that feeling that you don't deserve to be where you are. And it really becomes this heavy burden. It makes you feel like you're fake or you're doing something wrong by being there. If you're nervous about learning something new, so a lot of people are. Men may or may not be, but they definitely don't show it because they were taught from the time as a little kid not to show weaknesses. You've got to be confident. You've got to be sure of yourself. And that really has created this mindset that men believe they can do it. So they just go out and assume they're going to make it work. Women, on the other hand, are taught to take care of others and to collaborate, to be nurturing. And I know growing up in the 70s, I heard a lot that women shouldn't be engineers. Women shouldn't do that. I started college as an architecture major, and I had people say, well, shouldn't you go into interior design instead of architecture? That's more of a woman's job. No, I want to be an architect. And I transferred out into engineering because I realized I couldn't be as good an architect as I wanted to be, and I love architecture too much to be average. So I moved out. But we create this mindset for ourselves and others when we talk about, well, I'm struggling with imposter syndrome. You're telling yourself that you're a fake, you're a fraud, you're going to be caught being the wrong person in the role. When you talk about it, you're also telling other people that you feel like a fraud. And there are people who are going to then start wondering, well, why does she feel that way? And they may start doubting you, which could feed into your own doubts. It's okay to have doubts. It's okay to be concerned. In fact, to me, that's awesome because it means that you care about what you're doing. You want to do a good job. So you're anxious about how you're going to succeed. And this is a big key for me. I talk to coaching clients all the time who say, but what if I fail? You change your approach and you learn something new and you keep going. The interesting thing about it all is instead of worrying about what if I fail, we should be talking about how do I succeed. And those nerves, that anxiousness, that little bit of self-doubt can help you hone in on what you need to know so that you can succeed. So let's stop this conversation about what if I fail and start talking about how do I succeed. Men walk into a job, a room, a team, a project with the idea that they're going to make it work, that they can do what they're there to do. Women don't do that as often, and we should. And I know there's a double bind around leadership where the leadership descriptions are very masculine. You've got to be assertive, you've got to be likable, you've got to be decisive and authoritative and have a vision, where those are terms that get used to describe men. And women, we get described as likable and collaborative and empathetic and nurturing, but those aren't the terms we use to describe leaders. However, good leaders are all of the things that women bring to the table. Men become overconfident, and if they're overconfident and become arrogant, that actually hurts them as a leader. Women, by being collaborative and empathetic, better listeners, you can create better, higher functioning teams. The problem we get into is when we become assertive, people see us as less likable, and we want our leaders to be likable. It's called a leadership double bind. When you look at it, what causes us to doubt our abilities to move up to that next step, to move into a leadership or a senior leadership role? I see two reasons why women doubt their abilities to become a senior leader. The first is around these leadership traits. We're told if we're too assertive, that's, we're wrong. We're being bitchy, we're being bossy, we're too much. But if we're not assertive, then we're told we're not confident enough. We don't have the confidence to be a leader, but if we assert our confidence, then we're too much. So there's that issue, and how do you navigate that? You can walk that fine line. I have some YouTube videos out there on walking that line between assertive and aggressive, and how to be assertive as a woman in STEM. The other problem is, if you look at the companies, there aren't women in leadership roles. About 20% of the engineering graduates are women. If you look in companies, maybe at the lowest level, entry level, there might be 20% women engineers. But as you move up, you start seeing fewer and fewer women in those higher ranks. In fact, by the time you get to the C-suites, you typically see less than 5% are women. So we don't have role models. We don't have a way to look around in our organizations and say, well, okay, I see what Sue did to get where she is. I can follow that path. If she did it, I can do it. Whereas men have all kinds of examples of saying, hey, Bob followed this path. I can do that. I worked for a big Fortune 100 company. There were very few women at the higher ranks. In fact, when I left, the factory manager for my factory was a woman. I think she was the only female factory manager at a huge multinational company. But where were my role models? They weren't there. That hurts us, and that also then creates this doubt. Well, there aren't any women up there, so maybe I don't belong. These are biases that are outside of us. They're outside of our abilities. They're a false narrative that tells us we don't have what it takes to get there, but we do. So we need to pay attention to what we're telling ourselves. Again, it's okay to be nervous when you're taking on a new role or a new job or doing something new that you need to learn. That's okay. Stop the doubt that you can learn it. You can succeed. You have the skills and abilities to get where you need to go. So challenge that external label of imposter syndrome. You're not ill. You don't have a condition that says you're not capable. You have proof positive in the fact that you're in that room, that you belong there. Start looking at what you've accomplished, what you've done, and you can succeed. First, stop using the term imposter syndrome. You can check out my YouTube channel for more videos around imposter syndrome, how it shows up, how you can handle it, and what is it. Let's start defeating it by just stop referring to it, and let's work on how do we get better so that we can claim the roles that we deserve. I hope you like this. If so, please subscribe. You can join me on Instagram at Carol S. Doherty. Love to see you around.